Just as long as this is working, they can hear this. It's fine. We don't have any presentations tonight.
Are we all set to roll? I know there were some problems with AV
You're
earlier
recording, right?
today. Okay.
Okay, we're good.
Yep. Good evening, the hour being 7:03 PM. Thank you very much, Councilor Cheney. Tonight's the night I definitely need one. I'd like to call to order the City of Laconia City Council meeting of January 10th, 2022. Henry. Prior to going any further, though, I'd request that we salute the flag, and I'm wondering if Councilor Hamel would lead us.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilor Hamel.
Thank you.
We're joined this evening by City Clerk, our recording secretary, Cheryl Lieber. Would you please call the roll?
Counselor Cheney.
Here.
Counselor Susie.
Here.
Counselor Whitman.
Here.
Counselor Haynes.
Here.
Counselor Hamel.
Here.
Counselor Felch.
Here.
Mayor Hosmer.
Here. We're also joined at council table by City Manager Scott Myers, by Finance Director Glenn Smith, who's also handling IT this evening. Welcome. It's nice to have all of you here. Before we go any further, though, all of us know and are saddened this evening that the council, this will be the last meeting for City Clerk Cheryl Hebert. And though I know this is an adventure for you and you must be looking forward to it, I think I can speak for all of us when I say we are going to be greatly missed. And I'm thrilled for you. But as I tell you every time I see you in the hallways, I'm not happy about this, okay? But I wanted to also let you know what a pleasure it's been to work with you over these past 4 years. Certainly when I joined the council at a tough time after the passing of Councilor Bolduc, you acclimated me and made me feel welcome. And I found working with you that you were always prepared, professional, tolerant of us as we mix things up. And, you know, it's just, we're fortunate to have you in the city. And I've been fortunate to work with you. And, you know, I often think that one of the toughest jobs in public service is to be that public facing presence when people come in with questions or concerns, or maybe just to write a check. And the office downstairs that you oversee and run, it can tell a lot about how your staff treats the public. And they always treat them exceptionally well. The morale is always high there. They're competent and professional, just like you. And I think it's a reflection of your leadership style and the great work that you've done there. So they are a testament to what you've established there and what you've accomplished. And it's going to be difficult to fill that position. And certainly your presence will be missed. But certainly on behalf of the city of Laconia, myself personally, and my fellow councilors here, thank you for your service to the city. Thank you for your support. And I know all of us have nothing but the best wishes for the next chapters as you and your family embark on them. So from all of us to you, thank you. Of course. you like to say a few words? I'll circle back to you, all right?
But that's the first time in City Hall that she has since declined that request.
All right. I would like to move on our agenda this evening. If Representative Huff is here with us, I'm around. Is he there? He might be here. Representative Huff, as we know, has a matter as the prime sponsor of HB 1032. It's on unfinished business. It's under 22B. I know he had some work considerations tonight. I told him I'd try to get him in earlier in the schedule so we could accommodate him. So when he shows up, we may look to move that up in the agenda, okay? If that's all right with you. Moving on to item number 7, which is acceptance of minutes of the meeting of December 27th, 2021. Minutes of the meeting were distributed to the City Council on Tuesday, December 28th. With no corrections or changes submitted to the clerk, the minutes will be accepted as distributed. Under consent and action items, number 8. I see Chief Biotti's here with us this evening. Welcome. Nice to have you. Per Resolution 2019-24, a resolution relative to the acceptance and expenditure of unanticipated funds made available during the fiscal year per RSA 31:95-B in an amount of less than $10,000. Must be accepted by the city. So the Laconia Fire Department has applied for and been approved to receive a community grant from Walmart in the amount of $2,000. This money will be used towards purchasing specialized medical equipment not currently planned for in the ambulance operating budget. This is, there are no matching funds required from the cities, so there's no fiscal impact. Right now, I'd be looking for a motion to move to accept the $2,000 Walmart community grant for the purchase of specialized medical equipment. So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Felch. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Thank you, Chief.
Mayor, Representative Huff just.
Oh, thank you very much. Do one more right here. Let's see, count. Hi. Just looking for you. So I would like to, at this point, move item number 22B under unfinished business. Move it up on the agenda. I see Representative Huff is here. So this is a discussion of House Bill 1032 relative to the Laconia State School property. This item was tabled at the December 13th, 2021 council meeting. So we need a motion to take it off the table, I believe. So moved by Councilor Susie, seconded by Councilor Felch. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 6 votes in the affirmative. Welcome.
Hi, folks. How you doing? Thank you for accommodating me in my work schedule. It's I'm still digesting a little bit here on the way over. First, I just want to say congratulations for everybody on being reelected, and thank you for all stepping up and doing what you do. Appreciate it. As far as the bill, I spoke to a few of you, Councilor Felch and Councilor Lippman, and we just kind of went over it a little bit and talked about the basics of it. It's a very, very clean, simple bill. It just basically puts back what was put in HB2, which gave the authority to the governor and the council to do with the property as they will. All I did was, in this particular instance, the general gist, what happened is when that was going down in the committee of conference and HB2 was happening, things were getting put in and there were no hearings, there were no, you know how omnibus bills work. And that kind of went by the wayside. I was able to talk to a friend of mine who was on the committee that happened to be working in that section. And we were able to change the language so that Laconia would get first right of refusal. It was my hope at that point, because the budget was kind of tumultuous at the time, that it would go unnoticed. And I think probably about the second it went to the Senate, it was noticed. And they turned it right back to the way it was worded. So basically what I did is just try to get a quick bill in. It's a Hail Mary. We all know that it's probably going to take an act of Congress to get this thing to go through. But my point is I put it in so that we would have a placemat, so to speak. Whether we like the idea of just bringing it back to the way it was, or whether you folks might have a better idea. It's being introduced on Thursday into committee. Typically, it doesn't necessarily get exec that day. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure it won't. So that gives us a little bit of time. So if there's something that you might think would be a better fix, an amendment could be made at that time. I'm moderately comfortable that I can probably get it through committee. Representative Boards is on that committee. We do have a Republican majority in that committee. And I believe the chair of that committee actually authored the original bill for the Conservation Commission. So, or was one of them. But I need help. And so if there's something that you folks know of that is a better idea, a better fix, maybe to get the first right of refusal back in, whatever that is, I don't know what you want. So that's kind of why I came here. Perhaps you have something, or you can deliberate on that and get back to me. We do have a little time, but it was my hope that whatever it is that you wanted, we could get support from the council here, as well as support from the community. And with all of that, we might be able to just move the needle on this. So that was it. Yeah.
Council Lippman.
There's another bill that's coming up right after that bill on the hearing schedule that does, I think, address a few things that I think we're concerned about. One is, I think, making sure that the boundary lines of what is the Hearn State Park, the 911, and other kind of specifics of interest there, that piece of legislation, I think, is of concern, because I know we've heard people come before the council that have expressed concern that we'd lose access to different parts of.
Right. The other bill, I believe, I had heard of it or seen a little bit of it. It's crunch time now for all bills, so I may not have the exact specifics on it, but I think that particular bill had to do with basically cordoning off the facility which handles all of your 911 stuff. So it would almost be like an insulate. If that one happens to go, it would be an entity, I think, unto itself, where whatever else was going on, that wouldn't be a part of it, I believe. But I can definitely check into that. As far as Ahern Park, I'm pretty sure what HB2 did was separate Ahern Park from that property. And like I said, when I did this, I mean, it was literally, it's like, okay, it's the last second of the last minute of the day. If we want anything, I got to get something in. So that's why I'm saying, if that's something that you wanted to make sure that was in there, we can get together, or, give me a call, or we can find some time here and we can draft up an amendment to have that in there. So that's it.
Councilor Susie.
Thank you very much for coming. Okay,
Yeah,
first.
absolutely.
Secondly, have you talked to Councilor Kenny about this?
I have not.
Because he was here. We've had a few discussions with him, along with the board that was already in place when HB2 went through and all that thing.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So I was just wondering if there had been some, you guys working together to get this thing through. Okay.
I hadn't yet, primarily because from what I understand, and the authority that the executive council and the governor have, is basically they can dispose of the property however they want.
That's right.
So to be honest with you, I really didn't want to talk to them just yet, before I talk to you folks, to figure out if there was another way where we might be able to just stick our hand in. I don't know. Now, again, we're going basically to the people who have changed it to the way it is and asking them to not do that. That's why I'm saying, you know, if I can get more support, because just by myself, this thing is going to fail. It just is.
I was surprised to see it the way you came out, and that I'm not understanding how the Hollis process works. You okay? That you hadn't come to the council first and try and gather all that support. I've been waiting to see some of the county delegation come to some of our meetings.
Yeah.
And participate. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Since we're the biggest customer you have.
right. Yeah, absolutely. I can't really say that there's any particular way about that. To be honest with you, the state school property, because I'm new to this also, once HB2 came out and it was changed, I thought it was done. I thought it was over with. What happened is I noticed that a lot of bills that we had passed and that the governor had signed into legislation this term, people are writing bills to basically undo it. And then I had the idea.
One last question, Mr.
Please.
Mayor. Is there any other support within delegation for what you're doing?
Yes.
Okay, I know that you have a co-sponsor. I believe it's Representative Littlefield. I think
No,
is it-
no, I didn't. I put it out. I put it out to everybody in Laconia for the delegation if they wanted to get on board. I think one, maybe two were interested. But when I looked at what I was going to be up against, I really didn't want any of them to kind of get dragged down by this thing if it crashed and burned. I didn't know what to expect when I put this thing in. I really didn't know where you guys stood. I didn't know if you were okay with how it was gone down. So I kind of just wanted to I threw it in as a placeholder. If it was something that the council didn't want and they liked what was going on, I can pull it, so it was just, but if it wasn't there, there was absolutely nothing we could do about it.
Okay,
So,
because we had met with Councilor Kenny and asked him specifically, and I think the mayor wrote a long letter to him that we wanted to take that position, that we wanted to have more of an influence
Mhm.
or right of refusal or anything else like that
Mhm.
with that, okay? And at the time, I didn't hear anything from the county delegation.
yeah, I can't speak for the folks on the delegation, other than I know that everybody's extremely busy with whatever it is that they're doing. Everybody's in different directions and everybody has a certain, expertise that they like to follow. As it comes to this particular topic, I just wanted to be able to make sure, because let's face it, whatever goes there and however it goes down is going to affect Laconia forever.
Exactly.
And I don't want to see, not that there's anything wrong with it, but a landfill or any other things that can absolutely be horrible there. And I just think it's silly. I know that, ownership is 99 tenths of the law and that they own it and they can do what they want with it. But I also know from what I've seen in Concord that when the public is aroused and they send the letters and they talk and they go to the meetings and they say what they really feel, and you have it backed up with the officials from Laconia or wherever it is that they are, that they cave, they will listen, they will move. I saw it in Right to Work. We got bombed with, letters and emails. There was 500 people outside the State House, against it, and they won. So I know it can be done. It's just, it's too bad that, for me, I was new enough. It's taken me a while to get through the process and start understanding what it is that I can and what it is that I can't do. So like I said, I threw it in there and hopes that it was something that would work for you guys.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Bob, I'm sorry.
Counselor Hammond.
Yeah, just a quick question, Representative. And I've been bringing this up right along for many years, is that with Robbie Mills Park there, across the street, we've used that field for parking. And if we lose that area, it doesn't have to be as big as, what we've been using,
Right.
but that kind of negates Robbie Mills Park.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, that's a big thing right there, is that the city would get some portion of that field to be able to use for parking for the athletic fields there.
Yeah, absolutely. Any ideas that you want, whether it's a lease, whether it's I know a lot of times you can have like, I don't know if you'd call it a right of way for that particular thing, but at least maybe something written in, like the old Burger King lease, maybe we could get 99 years out of it.
We got a few properties that we have that now.
Yeah.
Up there. So, but to me, that would be important.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I just want to, this is one of those ones that this is purely 100% for whatever we can do for Laconia. So, you guys know what you're doing on this. You've been around paying attention to this a lot longer than I have. So that's why I wanted to, stop by and see what you guys wanted to do with it.
Representative Huff, I sit here somewhat perplexed at what's transpiring. Simply because we've made outreach 9 months ago about our concern about the state school property being included in HB2. Budget came out in late February, almost a year ago. Yet we heard nothing from anyone in the delegation as far as concern about this portion of the budget. The only one we had a conversation with would be Representative O'Hara, who was anxious to learn about it and try and be helpful. Yet we didn't hear from anyone else about the property, the most significant piece of undeveloped property within the confines of the city of Laconia. The time, it seems to me that we could have had the biggest impact as a delegation. And certainly we were here to support, we were making outreach, we were speaking publicly, was while the budget and HB2 were still being discussed. So filing a bill here at the last minute, your own personal Hail Mary, with no support from the delegation, no co-signers. I haven't really seen this tactic taken to get a bill passed.
So I'm not really sure what your question is. I mean, are you just?
I didn't have a question for you. I'm just sort of stating some background here as to the outreach that we did.
Well,
And we were looking for support almost a year ago.
right.
We didn't get any.
Well, to be fair, I didn't get a phone call either. So,
Well, I'm not sure that's accurate, whether you took the call or not, I don't know. But the fact is, this is your state representative. This is part of the state budget.
yeah,
This is something that it comes into in the parameters of your responsibility.
right.
We read it, we saw it, we are concerned with it, and we're concerned with it. This is your primary responsibility. To say the delegation had other things to do or was on their plate right now, and that's why they didn't want to co-sign this bill or become active when HB2 is being debated. It would just seem to me, wouldn't you agree, that the highest priority is the city of Laconia and the residents of this city?
I would agree that the highest priority is doing what is best for the city in this instance. And I would also ask that, wouldn't you agree that now it's a little late to be nitpicking? We have
There's
it.
no
We can-
nitpicking, sir. Let me, this isn't a nitpick. This just to me.
Sir.
So just hold on 1 second. I'll give you plenty of chance to talk, okay? This isn't being nitpicky by any means. This has become a significant priority for quite some time in the city. I'm not nitpicking. And I think you would probably agree with me that the RSAs did not allow for the city of Laconia to have the right of first refusal if a purchase or if an offer to purchase the property was made. So that's not what the RSA says right now. So I think there's a little discrepancy in what you think the bill does and what it actually does. That might be nitpicky if I were to sit here and debate the quality of what was written, but I'm not. All I'm saying to you is we've been working really hard on this. This has been a huge concern for us. To get a bill passed takes a lot of work, takes co-signers. It takes building a coalition. And not one of us was contacted by you ahead of time to say, hey, what can we do? Now you're here saying, help me. I think the window of opportunity to assist the city was last March, April, May, June. If you wanted to file a bill, I think it was September, you probably had a bill filing deadline. Could have reached out to us June, July, August, September, October, to ask for our input and our assistance. Now we're 3 days away from a hearing. It just strikes me as a very peculiar way to, or tactic to get a bill passed, and I'm just perplexed by it.
Well, it's not that it's a tactic. And as far as being important, this has been important for a lot longer than what you're saying. It's been important enough to have the development in place since 2017. And in all fairness, in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, the needle hasn't moved, hasn't gone anywhere. You still don't have the property.
I think that's open
You
to
still-
debate.
No,
And I
well,
would suggest that the commission has done an
is there
extraordinary
a portion
amount
of
of
this, sir,
work.
that I'm going to be able to finish the sentence?
No, but
or-
I think you're making some allegations here. that
I'm not
just are
making anything.
They're just not
Do you
true.
do you have anything other than nothing right now?
As far as what?
An agreement for that property?
What we have done is an extensive body of work by the Lakeshore Redevelopment Commission with representation from the city of
So
Laconia.
then why wouldn't
Hold
you
on,
want that to
hold on.
continue?
Hold on, which has enhanced the value of the property. All right.
Okay.
You may think this is humorous. I'm not trying to be humorous at all because I'm taking this very seriously, not as a farce. So that's the issue here.
No, the issue
I
here
think it-
is we have a chance to actually maybe do something. Probably won't work. It's up to you if you want to take it or not. I didn't come here to argue. I came here, I told you what I got. I discuss it amongst yourselves. If you want to continue, I'll continue. If you don't, I can pull the plug tomorrow.
I don't think you can because it's a bill that's been filed and every bill gets a hearing. I don't think you just pull plugs on bills, but
Okay,
that's just my hunch. I would say to you that we have taken this extraordinarily seriously and made a concerted effort to preserve the voice of the Laconia residents and the future of this property. I am wholly disappointed in what's transpired up until now. This attempt here, I'm not really sure it puts us in any better position. So I'm not quite sure what you want from us in this. It's unclear when you're asking us to help you, help us, or
I'm
however it was
not
phrased. What do you want
asking-
us to do?
I'm not asking you to help me.
I thought you came here and asked for help or some assistance.
If you want it to work.
Then you're asking for help. So what is it you would like us to do to help you get this long shot bill across the finish line?
Well, I think probably the first thing to do would be to think about what it is that you actually wanted to have happen here.
I think we've expressed it consistently for well over a year, and we've done so with the Lakeshore Redevelopment Commission. So we
Which
have
no
been
longer,
working
which
very
no longer
closely
has,
with.
which no longer has any bearing.
That
at
is
all.
not true. That is still a statutory provision that was not repealed. They have it. In the governor and the executive council always had the ability to sell this property after the commission's work was done. The commission never had the power to sell the property. Under the RSA,
Right.
it was to study,
Yeah.
not sell the property.
That's right. And what it brought to the table was the voice of Laconia, an appointer, somebody appointed by you or
Not appointed by
or
me.
or the mayor. I think there were two other positions, real estate folks. There's others appointed by the governor, by the, I believe, the Speaker of the House, by the President of the Senate. There's all kinds of folks that were appointed to this, and they were supposed to come up with however it was that they wanted to do these things. My point is I have a bill and that can be altered. That can be made germane to what we want or what you want.
Which I would suggest that should have been done ahead of time, but I'm not here to go down that path with you.
Will you keep going down that path?
Well, all I would say would do the work ahead of time. It would make it a lot easier for us to support our ultimate goal. I think what you have to understand, and I'm not sure it's coming across.
It's
We as
not.
It's
not.
Laconia residents are all on the same team here.
Yeah.
And to create an adversarial relationship over this issue strikes me as unproductive. And that's
I
That's-
don't see
that's-
the only one adversarial here is you, sir. Everybody here has asked me questions. Everybody here seems to be pretty nice. You've been sitting there with that scowl on your face, looking at me like
I've got a
I'm dirt.
mask on. I don't have a
Oh,
skull.
no, I see your scowl. I'm good at this.
I bet.
Okay, so
Okay,
can we just,
so-
I'm gonna, look, I have to go and do work. So I'm going to leave now. It is in your hands. If you want to do anything, you know how to contact me. Talk amongst yourselves. Let me know what you want to do. Let me know what you don't want to do, and we can go from there.
Thank
I
you for
thank
joining
so
us
much for
tonight,
the- I
Representative.
Thank you so
Huff.
much for the time, folks. Have a good evening.
So moving along to item number 9 on our agenda this evening, citizens' comments for matters not on the agenda. I see Karen Bassett, you're here? Could you join us? I know you've been waiting for quite some time. Let me share this with,
I have a few more if you want.
terrific. Oops. Might have to send a couple more over.
Any more down that way?
Yeah, one. Oh, we're all set on this end of it. So welcome. It's
Awesome.
nice to have you.
Thank you
Nice
so
to
much.
see you twice in one day.
I know, right? My name is Karen Bassett. I own Wayfair Coffee Roasters, so I'm here representing them tonight. I am excited to present a new event that we're going to be having in May, where this is our vision for it, is a New England Coffee Festival. We've been planning this for about 2 years, and we just feel like Laconia in its growth and development, which I just really appreciate your support of our businesses here in Laconia and how much you have supported economic development here and how you've actively shown investment in the community. And we see it, we see the growth, we've seen how our business has changed over the years. And I know that there's a lot of things out there, but I do appreciate, from my perspective, I appreciate your guys' support. We, took a chance on Laconia 12 years ago when we started opening businesses here, and it's pretty wild how things have changed. So we feel like even though we started this planning process 2 years ago, obviously that in 2020, that got quickly, we're not going to do that. But now with the opening of the Colonial Theater, the Opera House, our second cafe, our marketplace, you guys have all been there, seen it. We are excited to present the New England Coffee Festival to the city of Laconia. So this is our big step out of our location, our building, our comfort zone, and getting out into a 2-day event that's kind of strewn throughout the whole city. Our goal is to bring coffee and community to New England, to New Hampshire. That's our whole mission of Wayfair, and we're kind of that place that people come to gather. So in May, what we're hoping to do is to have a 2-day event, Friday night as kind of an opening welcome, pretty light, low-key thing, and then Saturday to be the full festival day. So we are working with the Belknap Mill as the hub of the community focus piece of it. So they're going to have our vendor expo there, along with an arts walk, live music, food trucks, big community, family friendly. Anyone can come to that. Outdoor portions would be like a free portion of the event. Anyone can come to, anyone can happen upon. Indoor stuff would be a ticketed price. Downtown, we would have events, competitions at Wayfair, maybe at our other location as well as partnering with the Colonial Theater to have like a coffee education symposium with lectures and speakers and workshops, so that specialty coffee, the specialty coffee community from all of New England can come together, connect, collaborate, build partnerships, see what's out there, celebrate this community. This is an event that is kind of mirrored a little version of the event that brings in 14,000 people a year. All Specialty Coffee Association has a very well-connected group of coffee shops internationally, actually, so they move around. So we're kind of spinning off of that event and having it a little less coffee professional and more coffee consumer and coffee professional, so that it's welcoming the whole the whole community and a great community event. So we are going to need the city's support, the city's help for sure. This is definitely the first time we've kind of, again, expanded outside our doors. And I'm learning through this process. So I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of questions. I know I'm going to need to chat with you quite a bit. But I appreciate any support. I don't know really exactly what the city's role will be in it, but any support you can offer, I would greatly appreciate that. You guys all have our brochure to kind of learn the vision. Hopefully what you see is a reflection of what Wayfair has done over the last 6.5 years. And just the quality and the high level execution of the events and the type of thing that our brand has come to be here in Laconia. So we're hoping to extend that and we're really excited. So just wanted
Karen,
to
I wish
share.
Ben were here with you, just to say to both of you, thank you. Thanks for taking a shot on Laconia a dozen years ago. When you said 12 years, I can't believe
Isn't
it's
that
been that
crazy?
long.
I know.
But thank you for taking a shot, and
Yeah.
thank you for hanging in there as we gone through our own little growing pains in the city, and congratulations on the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And I've said this to you before, it's not an original line, you know this, but Wayfair has sort of become Laconia's living room in so many respects,
Hmm.
where people can sit, relax, have a cup of coffee, see friends, old friends, new friends, have great discussions about things. It is a great gathering spot and something that I think any community would love to have Wayfair in their community. So I'm really pleased that you're here, that that you're doing this. And this looks like probably something that maybe all of us envisioned to some extent, particularly with the Colonial Theater coming online, that we could have more community events. So thank you. And I'll turn it over to the counselors because you and I have talked enough about it. Counselor Felch.
Yes, I was actually involved in organizing the last one we had in Laconia.
Oh yeah, nice.
So I just want to say thank you, fully support you. If I can
Thank you.
help in any way, I will.
Thank you so much.
Counselor Cheney.
Unlike the fireman, I'm a retired cop. I love coffee. I'm an expert in two things, coffee and donuts. So I'll be around. I
Perfect.
support you wholeheartedly.
Thank you.
Henry, anything?
No, I think highly of what you offer and appreciate the
Yeah.
thinking that went into this.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, so thank you for coming and sharing that with us. And certainly Scott will be your direct point of contact now as you get before the events, special events committee, and they take it from there. And certainly we want to make a process like this as streamlined as possible
Yeah,
as well for
awesome.
you and
Thank
sort
you.
of support you in this endeavor. So
Thank you. Thank you
great.
for your
Congrats and
patience as we're
thanks.
learning the processes as well. Appreciate it.
I think your
Okay.
timing
Thank
that you
you.
picked before Memorial Day
Yep.
weekend is a good time too.
Good luck.
Awesome.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
Thanks.
great job.
Thanks, Karen.
Mr. St. Clair, I saw you. You had a quick first step, but she was in front of you and was going to box you out. So.
Nice tie.
Thank you. I almost wore my tie. Before you leave, though, I want to say as a business person downtown, this is great. This is great news. I had not heard anything about this, but I'm thrilled.
You weren't supposed to.
Well, apparently not, apparently not, but I'm
We can pass
thrilled.
that
and
around to
I
Charles.
I think it's just great.
He'll be a
Um,
sponsor.
What's that?
He'll be a sponsor. right?
Undoubtedly.
I think there was a
undoubtedly.
$10,000.
You didn't need it.
I also want to echo the mayor's comments, pretty much, well, thank you, everything I was thinking about saying. But I am not happy that she's leaving. I threatened her with court action and everything else to no avail. But on behalf of the thousands of people that I can represent right now out in our public, I want to thank you, Cheryl, for a job. I mean, you had to do a good job in front of these guys, but not in front of the public, but you did. And the mayor's right. It showed with the comments that people made about how going to City Hall was cool to deal with their business. So, and now maybe after this, you'll change your mind. Maybe. No, probably not. All right. Anyway,
to give the
thank you very
flowers
much,
back,
Cheryl. I just wanted to say that publicly. Thank you very much. I'm going to miss you. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else in the chamber tonight for comments on matters not on the agenda? And anyone online, Mr. Smith? So moving right along here, under item number 11. which would be nominations, appointments, and elections. This is Wes Anderson requesting reappointment to the Concord Regional Solid Waste Resource Recovery Cooperative. It's a mouthful. Public Works Director Wes Anderson currently represents the city of Laconia on the Concord Regional Solid Waste Resource Recovery Cooperative. His term expired at the end of December 2021. He's requesting reappointment. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Anderson. I see you there. I'll right now be looking for a motion to reappoint Wes Anderson to the Concord Regional Solid Waste Resource Recovery Cooperative to a 3-year term expiring at the end of December 2024. So made by Councilor Haynes, seconded by Councilor Hamel. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Congratulations, Wes, and thank you. Moving along to item number 13. Public hearings. It's a public hearing for resolution 2022-01 relative to the acceptance of the New Hampshire State Library Services American Rescue Plan Act subgrant. Notice of this public hearing was made available on December 29, 2021. Edition of the Laconia Daily Sun, posted at Laconia City Hall, SAU, Community Center, and Laconia Public Library on December 28, 2021. Action on this item may be taken up under unfinished business. I'd like to open the public hearing at 7:43 p.m. And if you'd like to comment on this, now would be the appropriate time, both in the chamber and online. Thank you. I'd like to close public hearing at 7:44 p.m. We have no presentations tonight. We'll lead into item number 15, which is the mayor's report. Just a couple of things. I know we have a lot of work to do, so I'll try not to take up too much time here. But I've spoken to everyone here at one point over the past week or so about my thoughts about the development of the downtown on Main Street. And certainly what's had me thinking an awful lot about it was parking garage and the discussion we had a month or so ago about that and what role does it play, and do we have enough parking in the city or not enough parking? Is the parking garage the highest and best use of our public funds or not? If so, how much? I think it led me not to come to a hard and fast decision about what I think the future of the garage should be. But where it has led me to is thinking about what does the future of our downtown Main Street corridor look like? And when I think of the Main Street corridor, really I think of Main Street Bridge, Beacon Street East, Beacon Street West, probably up to New Salem Street, and the only reason I go that far is just to make sure it encompasses the parking that we now have behind St. Joe's Church, that general area. And it is, in my mind, and I think we could all agree on this, it's loaded with additional opportunities. I think the growth over the past 5 to 7 years, not only in downtown, but certainly Lakeport and the Weirs, has been extraordinary. And it's extraordinary because of the work of previous city councils and certainly the previous Mayor Engler, with his vision, and certainly a lot of hard work on just the residents in the city in the city who've made investments, who've supported public plans to enhance our city, private people who've brought money and invested it in the city to rebuild certain areas. I mean, this is a really very strong and collaborative effort that is showing great results right now. I'm really optimistic, as I think you all know, I think we all feel this way too, that the continued growth is achievable. And I think it's over the next 10 years, we could build on this and be very proud of the results. I had an opportunity when doing some work and thinking about what I was going to request of you. I went back and took a look at the US EPA Smart Growth Implementation Assistance for Laconia, New Hampshire. And that goes back to 2007. And it's really a comprehensive analysis of the city of Laconia. And it's an analysis that points out our great strengths. It has pointed out what the public really would like to see in the future of their city. It also talks about a lot of the challenges we have. What I found to be extraordinary in this report is the opportunities for growth in this city that they identified. The Colonial Theater, revitalization of Lakeport, infrastructure improvements on Weirs Beach. All of these things over the past 14 years have been accomplished, and it's remarkable to see the results. Now, almost as if they predicted some of this stuff. I think it's also interesting to look at, they pointed out some of the challenges, some of the obstacles that we have to growth here. And, one of them is, what do we do as a city with our parking garage? And I certainly empathize with those that have been here a lot longer than I have, who've talked about this issue for a long time and are ready just to settle it and fix it. I totally get it, and I completely respect that, and I hope you all know that. But I think of it as, how does parking figure into the broader vision that we have for the city? And what I'd like to see, and I'd like us to consider, is maybe taking a step back and asking for assistance as far as a fresh set of eyes to come into the city and look at what we have. Work with us to hear not only what we want to see, where we would like to go over the next 10 years as a city, but also open up our eyes to things that maybe we haven't seen either individually or as a community. The possibility of development of our community assets, perhaps repositioning some of the parking area, maybe helping us decide whether we have adequate capacity right now or we don't have adequate capacity. I think a lot of these things are very strategic. They'll take some thought. They may take a little bit of investment. But I also think it allows the community to have some skin in the game, to have an opportunity to have their voice heard. And I think that's critically important. And I think it's critically important to always be aware of what people like Karen Bassett and Ruben and Ben Bullerwell are doing, and give them a chance to say, we want to be here for the next 20 years, 25 years, and help the city grow. And we'd like to have some input. Not that anyone's been shut out, and I don't mean to imply that, but I think we can never open up enough doors for people to give us some input. So we are making the most informed decisions that take into consideration a lot of variables that I may not even be aware of right now, or individually we may not be aware of. So what I would like the council to consider is requesting the city manager to put together a request for proposals to retain the services of a multidisciplinary firm with demonstrated experience in preparing specific plans for downtowns and urban areas. I am not here suggesting that we go on a 2-year study with lots of charrettes. I'm not here suggesting we should do a traffic study either, which I think really has real limitations right now based on the downtown area. But what I am perhaps taking even from the city of Concord is the fact that down Main Street in Concord took in a lot of input and a fair amount of planning. And in my mind, there's no reason that we can't enhance our downtown area, keep our historic character, increase the number of small businesses that want to be here and that come here and grow roots here. And also, I think another priority for me might be housing, quality housing in the downtown area. That adds to the tax rolls and also fills that vacuum right now. We have far too, as we all know, far too places for people to live. And I'm not saying we're jumping in 2 feet tonight. That's not my suggestion. I don't believe this is at the exclusion of some of the work that's going on with the parking garage right now. It's not one or the other. I think we can do both things right now on somewhat of a parallel track, at least initially. And I'd like to hear your input and your thoughts as to whether a motion like that might be able to gain some support. Counselor Susie.
Can you help define what the geometry would be or the boundaries of the downtown area?
Yeah, loosely, Main Street Bridge, right here, right down Main Street to New Salem, right at the railroad tracks, we'll say. Beacon Street West, Beacon Street East. I would say in that general area, I would call our downtown core. And I would like to keep it with that, at least initially. I'd rather,
So you're not looking outside of Beacon Street West, you might say, into the, where Hector's and all those areas are, because
I would say maybe that general area, sure. I just wouldn't, I don't want it to have mission creep, so to speak, and it gets so big that I would just like to keep it focused on this downtown area, because I think this is really where some of our most critical opportunities and maybe pitfalls are in the city.
I have a pitfall outside of that area, but regardless of that, okay.
Microphone.
What time frame are you looking at?
A good question. I would love to see something done 6 to 8 months, if possible. And I don't know, I've never worked with an urban planning firm. And I think when we put out a request for proposal and get the responses, we'll have to have that discussion as to whether, do they think it's possible to do something of quality in that time frame? Or are they suggesting if we were to come and work in the city of Laconia, we need more time than that? I think that's then the next step that we take and decide, are we willing to commit that amount of time or not? And that's up to all of you.
We also have right now a district, isn't that part of that historical overlay district we have right now? How would that affect that? Is that taken all into part of the whole?
I don't necessarily think it does, because I think that, I'm hoping that the plan we get isn't binding. It is a guide. It is a map for us to follow. If we find obstacles with the historic overlay district or opportunities, we address those on sort of a one-by-one basis. I don't think it does away with the historic overlay district, though some suggestions may be in conflict. But I think if that's the case, then it's resolved with the historic overlay district, the planning board, and hopefully the council, but haven't really thought that through completely.
Just one more comment,
Please.
please. Okay. I know that, I can't remember how long ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago, I read a letter in the editor from the lady that has the barber shop on
Bree
Main
Neal.
Street. Okay. And she made a lot of points, but all over the place. I think basically what she's talking about with your job. Have you had any other discussions with some of the people in the downtown district?
I have, and thanks for the question. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, I had a meeting, and I think about 20 or 22 people from the downtown area showed up to talk about the downtown area. They want to talk about the parking garage. They want to talk about traffic flow. They wanted to talk about opportunities for development, to some extent, the homeless situation. I mean, there were a number of things they wanted to talk about here, but a lot of good ideas, a lot of questions I couldn't answer. But I think what I left there believing was they would like an opportunity for their voice to sort of be heard and to weigh in on this. And it was 22 people at 5 o'clock on a Thursday night that showed up and sat down for a conversation about it. So from that meeting and from a little bit of research and some chatting with other folks, this is sort of where I've come about.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's an awesome idea. I just don't want it to take long because we've been kicking this can, the whole thing, as Councilor Hamel would say, so long. I don't want parallel is what I hope we can maintain.
And it's something I've talked about certainly with a couple of folks. I think we can move on a parallel course here. It's not meant to subvert any work that's going to be done on the parking garage. I mean, I think that's moving along, but I think we have to balance what we're doing here and how does parking fit into an overall plan? That's all. And I don't have an answer on that. I have lots of questions, and I see some cities that have done really, really well, how they've planned and revitalized their cities. And I think we've got that potential. I would like to see us take a swing at it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Susie, or Counselor Cheney, yes.
I guess I have two comments. One, referring back to Counselor Susie's comment about the letter in the paper, part of the criticism in that letter was that the decisions about parking for colonial residents was made without any consultation for the people downtown. As a matter of fact, as you know, that's not true. We did. The importance of that, I think, for me, is we do things in small bites and we get criticized because we didn't bring other people in. This is a chance to bring other people in. This is a chance for the people who want the parking garage fixed to say to this organization, fix the damn garage. And this is why. And the people who think, no, don't do that, make it into an apartment building and put the garage someplace else. I think this is an opportunity for everybody. And I think it's an opportunity for the council to be able to say, we gave everybody a chance to be part of this. The second thing I would say is, I think that report that you have is the strongest argument for your suggestion. Because there's the Colonial, there's Lakeport. They may not have been well organized, but somebody paid attention to that stuff. If nothing more than they heard about it when that report was submitted and they thought, geez, we could do something about the Colonial or about Lakeport or whatever. So I think that's a strong support. And I think it could prevent the argument that we didn't consult with people.
Thank you, Counselor Cheney. Counselor Haynes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I discussed with you, I definitely support this. I haven't changed my mind about the garage, but I support both what Counselor Cheney and Counselor Susie said, that, this is an opportunity and let the people be heard, and let's see where this goes. But I think it's a wonderful idea. It's inclusive. Let's hear what people have to say and get an outside opinion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor Haynes. Anyone else want to weigh in on this before we move along, hopefully? Counselor Hammond.
Thank you. I don't mind going down the path that you're talking about, as long as it parallels the garage. I think we've made decisions on that. We've told the architect engineer to progress with the plans, which we're paying for. I don't mind somebody else coming in, or a business coming in to say, we have this opportunity, we have that opportunity, or whatever. I'm sure they'd come up with stuff we never thought of. I don't know. But I don't want to impede the progress of the parking garage at this point. There's still, if it's turned out, we're going to put a residential up on the top, I don't know. But there's still structure there that needs to be repaired, or you're just going to lose the whole thing.
I agree.
The tearing down part, which would cost us quite a bit of money, probably more than we thought, to make a roof, and then the city is still stuck with the roof. It's a conundrum. I like that word. But, I can understand what you're saying, and some pretty amazing stuff has happened in the last 6-7 years here in Laconia, and I want to see that continue. And if someone can come in and, I think development of the waterfront by the river here, the property by the river, that's a big potential right there. What's going to be in front of it, I don't know. But, I think too is the parking lot behind St. Joe's needs to be utilized. And I think we need to start writing letters to some of the businesses. I can think of one across the street from it. that's using the parking lot. There's no reason why they can't park across the street and walk 50 feet to the where they work. So, you know, I think they should be put on notice that you can't park in our parking lot, even though it's public, but we're offering you to go across the street. And, you know, so that can be more utilized and free up more space. But I wouldn't have a problem supporting what you're asking, but I think it, like you said, it needs to parallel the parking garage for right now.
Counselor Felch.
So I agree with Counselor Hamel almost 100%. Believe it or not.
You all right?
But
Why is he moving away from you?
and I have no problem with getting a request out. Just want to know how much it's going to cost and how long it's going to take before we approve it.
I think that's excellent point. I think we all need to know that, right? We need to know the cost, and there are a number of steps I think we need to take here in this decision process. And it's right. And Counselor Hamel, just as a, you know, it's people like you and Ed and Henry who, you know, Weirs Beach and the infrastructure improvements there didn't happen just by dumb luck. The Colonial didn't happen by dumb luck. You know, it happened because people had some vision, they had some guts, they stepped up and said, we're going to do something really big and significant here. Maybe Lakeport's lucky more than anything, maybe, but you know, 2 out of 3 of those meant that folks like you and others stepped up and thought big picture and thought big ideas. And I think that's, though we may have disagreed a couple of weeks ago, I think, you know, the results of your big ideas are really my initiative. Say, hey, wait, we can do bigger here. And that's just where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you know, I think everybody around this table loves Laconia. And we want the best for it. So, you know, if that means we could go on the outside, then, you know, and see something, then that'd be fine. But like Tony says, you know, I'd really want to see what the cost would be for that. And
And we always reserve the right to say no to whatever suggested as well. So, I mean, but anyway, Councilor Litton, would you like an opportunity?
Yes, please. Sort of 2 perspectives here. One, on the parking garage. I think that part of the feedback we've gotten from the community is because we need to do more explanation of what the option really is, because just walking away from it really isn't an option, and that that something has to be done, an investment has to be done. I do agree with the concept of we purchased the parking lot behind the church. We need to put that into productive use and see what that does. We need to do those things. I think we need to finish the design of the parking garage and have that a true cost of that, and understand and put out there. We spent a lot of time, and I think appropriately so, taking ideas about the garage, but I do think we didn't spend enough time yet on explaining what the alternative is, because the alternative doing nothing really is a safety hazard. And so some big dollars would have to be spent either way. And so understanding that, I guess in terms of the facilitation of something along the lines that was done in 2007, in addition to the budget and the timing, I think it's important to be maybe a little bit more focused on it, as opposed to some, if, for example, an approach would say, okay, if we want to look at the riverfront here, you know, what can we do here if we want to look at the Main Street, but just sort of an open-ended kind of thing. I think maybe that's too global. I think we're at a point where we've matured to where we see the potential developable opportunities. I mean, we also adopted the performance zoning to allow for creativity to come to us, as opposed to us being the source of creativity of everything. But so I guess I think before I want to vote on something more than the concept, I would like to see the timing, the cost, but more importantly, what our objectives are specifically and try to focus in so that we get a deliverable that we can actually act on. And so that's my input.
Thank you, Counselor.
Mayor.
Counselor Littman, that was excellent. Yes, Counselor Hammond, sir.
Just to bring up something Henry said about we need to get the information out there more about the garage. We had a meeting last month. That was last month at the mill. And I think there was, Wes can correct me, something like 20 people there, 22 people?
No,
Wasn't even that much?
no.
Oh, I thought- Okay, all right, I'm exaggerating.
Not including staff. I mean, I think.
But we're trying to get the information out. We had Du Bois and King there. We had Stewart, Mr.
Peter
Stewart there,
Stewart.
Peter Stewart, yep. And we'll be doing more. Is one scheduled?
Probably early February.
Okay. So kind of what happened that night is they went over everything with the garage and they showed, you know, what it could look like. And then they took input. So then they go back and put that on paper and then come back and show what they did at that last meeting, you know, to update things. And then have another meeting, do the same thing. And I think there's going to be 3 meetings. So we got it. The people have to make an effort to come to understand. It's like voting on our budget of $70 million plus. And when we ask for public comment, it's crickets. And then after it's voted on, we hear about it. So I think the city's doing our best to get this out there.
Go right ahead.
I think, Bob, I agree with you 100% with regards to you make the effort and nobody shows up. I think part of the purpose of this proposal is let's make the effort to include people and to find out what they want done. And if they don't show up, then
Yeah, well, I don't have a problem with what he's suggesting. I'm just saying, you know, what Henry brought up is we need to make a better effort, like on the parking garage, to get the word out there. Other than going and grab them by the collar and drag them up there. What do you do?
Fair enough. Counselor Littman.
So I just, I think that there's a distinction between the sort of what the future can look like and the parking, because I think the parking is really, here's an option of what it could look like, you know, developed to the maximum, you know, with the input that people came to the forum on. I think that's one option. The second option is, you know, sort of, you got to do something to, from a life safety standpoint because of the structure, right? And the third option is really not an option, which is the option of just letting it collapse, okay? That's really not something that's in anyone's interest to allow to happen over time. So it really boils down to, here's a well-developed option that gives us a first class kind of within the constraints that we have. And the second is sort of like, let's just cap this off and, you know, protect the public, protect the space. And, you know, what does that cost versus that? And, you know, I think getting those numbers out there, just as a matter of a financial thing, will help people understand whether, as an example, I'm not saying this is the real number, is it $6.6 million for a well-developed garage versus 3 million and you get nothing. And then you have to spend another 6 million or 9 million somewhere else to build something totally new because you need that parking. So I think that's one of the reasons we need to put the parking lot we purchased, to put that into use actively now, because I think that the cap it off kind of option isn't really just the only option. It's whether the capped off option with what we purchased is enough, or if we got to build another structure, that could be more expensive than the option we've been, you know, working towards. Okay, that's what I think people need to understand.
And I think those are, you're spot on. I think.
So that's one work stream. The second work stream is what you're bringing up, which is, what other opportunities are there to develop certain key points in the downtown area. Obviously, the riverfront is one of them. There may be others. I'm not trying to, but I think we ought to have a focused objective on what those areas are. And then I guess the only other question is whether, as we did in 07, whether we should look at 3 parts of the city as opposed to just the downtown. Because if you remember that report, they talked about how the 3 pieces complement and build off one another. And so whether what you're suggesting ought to include, again, the same sort of a refresh of 07, if you will.
I think that's good. I think that's a good point. And I think that's something, if we get an RFP out there and we begin to have some discussions with urban planners, one, we let them know what our priorities are, what we're thinking about. And 2, this might grow to a larger project at some point to include Lakeport and Weir. So sort of make sure that you can segue into an add-on to the urban plan. But I would like to keep it very focused and narrow just to downtown right now. Councilor Cheney.
I'd like to move that the mayor be instructed to work with the city manager to get an RFP proposed and out as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second, Councilor Susie. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I don't agree with that as a strategy. I think the whole council ought to have a chance to participate in it.
I
And,
apologize. That should have been part of it.
and I do think that the first step isn't what you're describing as an RFI, which is to talk to people, to find out what you want to go out to bid and do. And because I think an RFP is, you're already representing what you want done. And it sounds like you want to hear what professionals have to offer. And then after listening to that, then you do an RFP.
I thought an RFP gave you the pricing, and that's important.
But the pricing is going to be variable if you don't know exactly what you're asking for. In other words, one company hears you say it as, I think in an RFP, you really want specs. And in an RFI, you can enter into a dialogue. It's kind of like when we interviewed construction managers and then went to the process of putting out a set of specifications.
What you're looking for is what we want is a gathering of information of what they propose. to
What
look
they
at.
could, it's what they could offer to give us some insight, and then take that in and then develop a set of specifications in which you can get comparable bids.
So Councilor Cheney, is that acceptable? And if we move for the RFI at warp speed, and then that gets out there anyway, and then we can.
That's my concern, is the speed. I
Me too.
fear that an RFI, we're gonna take the time to I mean, the manager has a few things to do besides draw up an RFI.
I would say that the Colonial Theater, and I'm sorry to interrupt, the Colonial Theater, we did an RFI and an RFP. I didn't get any responses to the RFP, but the RFI turned around pretty quickly and segued into the RFP quickly.
If that can be done quickly, I'm prepared to accept that as a friendly amendment, but.
Okay, Councilor Littman, you're good with that?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion on that request? And do you have enough to work with, Scott? That's my question.
I do. And what I'm taking away from this, even though we don't want to see sprawl, we definitely need to focus on parking, because you've got parking in the garage right now. And what do you do structurally? I'm hearing that we want to make better use of the parking spaces behind St. Joseph's Church, which are underutilized. And that probably comes into an overall downtown approach of where you have 15-minute parking, where you have 2-hour parking, and where you're going to have all-day parking. I'm not sure I can single out one business and only write one business a letter and tell them they can't park in a public parking lot. But if we structure parking times and make that the full day parking option versus enforcement in the 2-hour area, and people risk a penalty, certainly the Colonial coming in might make us rethink what we sign for downtown. Do we need more handicap accessible spaces on nights that you've got 750 people coming downtown? Do you need an additional loading zone as you've got more residential opportunities happening in the Pimlico building and in the Colonial building? So I think parking will be a component of it. I'm glad to hear that it's not going to be traffic flow, because that certainly narrows it down. I think part of that should also include looking at the types of visitors we have downtown right now, how many come in at 8 o'clock in the morning and park all day to work, how many are coming in to go to the gym at 9 o'clock and are out of here at 10:30, how many are here for other types of business, how many residential people are we targeting in the downtown going forward, and how many visitors, whether it's to restaurants or shows or other activities in the downtown, at the train station and the rail bikes and those types of things are we drawing. So I think it's important to know who our customers are now and what the possibility is for the mix of customers in the future, and that may dictate. So I think parking will be a focus all the way out through and behind St. Joseph Church. I think some of those items that become identified will indicate where pedestrian pathways are naturally going to go. Where do people want to park when they're going to Main Street? Where do they want to park when they're going to the Colonial? Where do they want to park when they're going to the library? Those types of things. Not to get in the weeds, but it was real interesting. Years ago, there was a college campus that got built up and they built it up and they purposely didn't put any sidewalks in because they wanted to see where the natural footpaths went from the students and the faculty, and where you see the spots that were worn, that's where they knew the sidewalks needed to go. So it's really important. Like we talked about the flashing beacons, a few weeks ago, other than Councilor Lippman now, who's using them, sometimes they're there and you still see people cutting through from Vintage Row to go to Water Street. They don't go down 30 feet to use the crosswalk. So it's important to know who our customers are, where they're heading, and coordinate that into our parking efforts as well. So I definitely think we can come up with a scope, turn it around relatively quickly to make sure that we're on track with what the council's looking for, and then bring it out to professionals to see if there's other things that we've missed that they would suggest that we include in, a broad enough scope, but narrow enough that we can do it relatively quickly.
Hearing that, any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion that's on the table, please indicate by raising your hand. That's 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. The second item I wanted to speak to, I'm going to put off till next meeting. Keep you all waiting in anticipation, and I'll open it up to council comments right now.
Seeing no others, excuse me. I didn't get a chance to say anything to Representative Huff. That's an unfair statement. I didn't think it'd be wise to get in the middle of that fist fight. So
I had sucked all the oxygen out of the air anyway, so you're probably gasping.
I hope we explained to Mr. Huff that the other bill that's in is more important to the city and the county, because if we take out the fire mutual aid facility, it's hundreds and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. And I know from personal experience that moving that 911 center is like in the $10 million range. It's not just putting bricks up, it's technical connections to the network and to the web and all that other stuff that costs some serious money. So if they don't want us taxpayers to have to pay for a new fire mutual aid center that costs millions, he better support that bill. That's my comment.
Councilor Hamel.
I didn't have a time before, but I want to thank Cheryl for all her hard work for the city. I'll miss her as a neighbor. I'll miss the solo cup song at night. I hope she leaves the phrases to the song for the next guy buying it, okay? But, every once in a while you meet a person that makes a change in your own life. And I think Cheryl has done that. And I appreciate everything you've done for the city, for me going in there and asking a lot of questions. So thank you.
Thanks. Councilor Felch.
So I will second all that, but not just as a counselor, as a moderator. She's done so much for elections in Laconia. She's done so much for elections in Laconia. She runs around every time there's election, helping anybody and everybody. And as a moderator, I jumped in not knowing what I'm doing. And she was the one there that taught me pretty much everything. And she's helped me as a counselor as well. So Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Cheryl, as the moderator from Ward 4, I'd like to thank you very much. You've been a big help. And we're going to miss you greatly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
That's my pleasure. All right. Committee reports. Any committee reports this evening? Council Littman.
Finance Committee started to work through the welfare guidelines. We're going to have a subsequent meeting at 6:15, if so approved here tonight. We got through 23 pages of 56-page document.
That's good work.
Made good progress tonight.
That's good. Any other council comments? Excuse me, any committee reports or liaison reports? Seeing none. We're up to number 19 right now, which is, oh, did you have a liaison?
I just want to make the motion to schedule
Oh, sorry about that. Yep.
schedule a finance committee at the next council meeting at 6:15 a.m. to continue our work through the
PM.
PM. Sorry.
You're gonna be here all along.
Here alone. That's my wish, right? 6:15 PM would be the 24th, correct?
We good?
Here in the council chambers.
I'd like to make a motion to take a couple items off of land and buildings. First one would be 17D3, Pearly Pond Maintenance. I'd like to make a motion to remove that.
Second from Councilor Felch. Discussion on that.
I think we're kind of, I think Parks and Rec is maintaining it the best they can for right now. I believe the EPA has done some kind of a study of what we can and cannot remove. Is that correct, Scott?
Through Risk Frost Shumway and New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, we've submitted a plan. They've given us approval to do limited things at certain times. And we have an approved permit that is valid for, I want to say, 5 years from when it was issued, probably about a year ago at this time, if we want to do some type of a limited dredge in the future.
Okay, so, I'd like to take that off for now. I mean, if it pops back up, it pops back up. But
All right. Any further discussion on the motion that's on the table? Seeing none. All those in favor of taking the motion, 6 votes in the affirmative, 17D3, Pearly Pond Maintenance would come
And
off.
also, I'd like to take 17D5 off for now. There's only one area that the city has there that was considered, and that was
Mhm.
we're not going to do that. So at this point, I'd like to remove that one also.
Is there a second? Councilor Felch, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, so 17D Roman 5, continuation of the discussion regarding parking in the Lakeport area is removed from
Thank you.
agenda. Thank you. Moving along to item number 19, which is citizens request to comment on current agenda items. There's an item on the agenda, someone in the public in the chambers or in the chamber or in online would like to speak towards, now would be the appropriate time.
Mayor, members
Yes.
of the Council, I'm Attorney Phil Brouillard, and I'm here with Mr. William Mudge. We
Welcome.
understand that that the North Street parking, no parking may come off it may be taken up today, so this makes this the appropriate place to address that. And I'd just like to point out to the council that it was my understanding from the last time we were here when this was tabled, that the city manager would discuss with the Public Works Director when he got back from his vacation, and I actually brought the same documents over to him, and he was gone, and my client had agreed to engage a traffic expert to help us sort out what we might do in that area that would not eliminate all the parking in front of his property. And then I found out that the traffic expert, Mr. Steve Pernaugh, that I usually use is not available for a long period of time. So I contacted the deputy Public Works Director, and I said, do you feel that the city has enough folks in-house with the DPW, the police department, the planning department to look at this area and to look at this out and have a meaningful discussion and a meeting about it. And she said yes, and she asked me to find out from my client when we could have a meeting. So I found out when we could have a meeting and I sent it over to her. And then Wes came back and said, well, I've given the information you've given me to the city attorney, and after we get it back, we'll schedule a meeting. And so I didn't hear anything. So I called Mr. Anderson this morning and he said, well, your information came back from the city attorney and they decided that they want to go ahead with it. Then I called the city manager and he goes, well, I talked to Councilor Phelps and he wanted to go ahead with it. And so those of you that thought that somehow we were going to have a collaborative approach and we were going to have a meeting and we were going to discuss this further and then we were going to come back, you'd be as disappointed as me because we haven't done anything. And we feel quite unfulfilled. And in fact, we kind of feel like, that this is going to try to get rammed through tonight when we're here and we have a lot of objections and we'd like to discuss it. And we haven't had a chance to have a meeting and we haven't had a chance to discuss it.
So I guess if I can interrupt you, I
Yes,
guess your
sure.
point is you'd like to see it stay on the table until you've had another opportunity. For a
Well, I'd
meeting?
like to have this meeting. My client's got a lot to say that I'm not sure with all the heavy things that you guys do, just sitting here listening to it, that it would be great if we could have a meeting and come to you and say, well, what might work instead of having a debate here. And we're willing to do that. We're willing to pay an expert, but we've been shut out. We've been told that he wants to go ahead with it. And so here we are and, we're nowhere. And so I would definitely request that you leave it on the table, that we'd like to talk about it. We'd like to do this constructively and collaboratively. It's just, he's in an odd situation. There's very few people like him that be totally shut off. And we think it just bears some discussion and some study and seeing if there's something that can be worked out. And that's really all we're asking for. And that doesn't seem to be like what the plan is tonight.
It seemed like it started out being rammed through, because I got a letter on the 10th. And they gave me one working day to come in here and explain my situation, which really isn't long enough.
Fair enough.
And so anyway, leave us to say, we'd like to talk to somebody about this. And it just seems that there should be people we should be able to talk to before we get to you folks. That's
Okay.
all.
Fair enough. Thank you very much, Counselor and Mr. Mudge. I don't know what the intention is this evening, but I'd hate to hang you out here all night for this, but you may be here.
Can
for a
I
little
say
while.
anything, or
Oh, sure. Yeah, I didn't know if he was speaking on your behalf or you're welcome to speak as well.
when they rebuilt North Street, and North Street looks similar to Appleton Street, that's when the real problems began. And we had a director of public works at that time who didn't last very long. But I did communicate with him. He was more than willing to communicate with us about the situation that we were in, which was the sidewalk was practically going through the bedroom and the bathroom. And we talked about putting the sidewalk on the other side of the street. This is when it's completely dug up. No fill had come in, no tar had gone down. It was wide open. They could have done anything they wanted to. And for some reason, he didn't last that long. And then, what's his name? Moynihan came in and put it back to the way it was originally designed, which was going to have the curbstones on both sides of the street, made it impossible, almost impossible to park. So they gave me one little opening that we could pull over and park. That's been taken away because now it's a sidewalk.
Right.
Okay. So the further they push out into the street, naturally, it's going to be, more difficult for people to go up and down the street.
So if
But you know
let me
what I don't
interrupt you for 1 second, just to the extent that this is all good information that may be justification to get together before we pull it out off the table tonight. So I may not be able to help you on the specifics of what you're talking about, Mr. Mudge, but it just seems to me that you've got a lot to add, and maybe there is an
Well,
opportunity
I'd
for
like
further
just to have the
conversations.
chance. That's all.
I hear you loud and clear, and let's, I don't know what the intent was of the council as far as keeping it on the table or not, but it certainly sounds like to me there should be an opportunity for
I
another
mean, I can't
discussion.
talk with him. He's my counselor. I always used to be able to talk with Armand or, you know, whoever was my counselor.
Me.
Haven't been able to talk to him. I used to be able to talk to the director.
Okay, well, I understand you. I hear you loud and clear. So let's see if we can't find an
Thank you for
opportunity to
your
get
time.
together
Thank you
and
for your time.
shed a little light on this, okay?
Okay,
I
thank
hear you. Thank you, Mr. Mudge. Thank you, Counselor. Okay. Here we are at the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think in honor of the clerk's last evening, I'm going to go through this report in painstaking detail tonight, line by line.
Lots of questions.
Lots of questions, please. Counselor, did you get that? Lots of
Yes,
questions. All right, let's start off with the financial and operational trends report. Again, we've got our building permit number, and we've bumped up another 4 million from where we were in the December report to January. Some smaller projects in there, but that also includes the second phase of the Scott Everett project in Lakeport. It includes a building permit coming in for the rehabilitation and new construction of the former Holy Trinity School building, and again, some smaller things. So we still have the months of January, February, which are traditionally slower in building permits, but March before the year ends. And I think last year we ended up around the $39 to $40 million range. So we've already exceeded permits year to date on last year's entire number. We were talking a little bit earlier tonight in the Finance Committee about welfare, public assistance. You can see year to date, the gross relief at 23,000. Again, you can look back in the prior years. We really think that 21, part of 20 and 22 in particular were softened a bit by a lot of the public dollars that came in during the pandemic. And as Glenn Smith, our finance director and welfare director, mentioned, as some of these programs unwind, we certainly will see probably some spikes, and you've certainly seen that come up a little bit in the November and December numbers in front of you. Although some of that, as I mentioned last month, we anticipate being reimbursable through one of our CDBG COVID grants. Turning the page on our two largest revenue sources in the city, property tax collection. We're running at the strongest level going all the way back to 2014. So we're over 96% collected of taxes through the end of the calendar year. Motor vehicle registrations continue to be on pace of over $100,000 ahead of last year's pace. And halfway through the year, we're running just short of 53% of our target revenue 100. So we are running strong there. The overtime numbers, again, continue to bounce a little bit. Some of this is pent up use of personal and vacation time from employees who haven't had the opportunity over the past years. Some of this is still tying into COVID and quarantining. And again, we continue to monitor the guidance coming out of the CDC and what the states adopted. And we have adopted the most recent state guidelines on quarantining and being able to test out as of last week. You can see on page 4 of the report, the schools have made a withdrawal out of their impact fees. That was the last department that had not taken anything. I know Councilor Lippman was just concerned that we didn't have any of these fees revert back to developers. So we are very solid there. No real change in any of the trust balances. Boat taxes, again, people will start purchasing their boat registration stickers now that it's a new year. And again, we encourage people to do it locally, if not at City Hall, any one of the registered boat agents here in the city. By doing so, more of those dollars stay locally, and you don't need to be a Laconia resident. Anybody, anywhere can come in and get their boat registered here. EMS billing, I know we spent a good amount of time in this a few months back, so I won't go into a lot of detail except to say there's nothing out of the ordinary trending there. And December storm cost summary, while we didn't have any big snow events like we had last December when we had 36 inches dumped upon us in one storm, we have had a lot of nuisance thawing, freezing, icing mixture, in a lot of cases having to go back out like we did this morning in resalt and sand as we had freezing overnight from the thawing. So a lot of little piddly storms that have added up to a fairly expensive month of December. Second report you have this month is our economic development report. You can see for the November unemployment rate numbers, the latest reported that we could get into a report. Everything from Laconia through the county, larger cities of Concord and Manchester, and the state are all running at 2.4% or below. The last page of that report includes the November inflation number, the CPI number, Consumer Price Index. Continues to run very hot. November's number was 6.8% for inflation. And I believe the December number comes out on Wednesday of this week. So after Wednesday, we will have this component of what's allowed for increased spending under our tax cap. Doesn't mean we have to spend that amount, but we're at 4.5% inflation annualized to date with one more number. And all indications are it probably tends to be looking to be a strong number again for inflation in December. So happy to stop there and take any questions the council may have this evening.
Seeing none, thank you very much, Scott.
You're welcome.
Ask questions, but I got shut down.
I'm kidding. I'm doing that.
I'm kidding.
You see, I got up and walked away.
Yeah, I am.
That's a mic drop. Just leave. Okay, moving on to item number 21, new business 21A, which is a request to schedule two public hearings on January 24th, 2022 during the regular city council meeting. A proposed application to the Community Development Finance Authority for up to $500,000 in CDBG public facility grants to renovate the space at 17 Church Street, owned by Laconia Housing Authority. The renovated space would be leased to Partnership for Public Health, New Hampshire, for meeting with their clients and offering services to the community. The majority of the PPNHNH clients are of low and moderate income. No fiscal impact to the city on this. That's what I'm like. There's usually says none or no, but I don't.
There's no impact.
There's no impact. Okay. So what I just read to you would be the first proposed motion. Would someone like to move that motion?
Yes, I
So
will.
made by Counselor Haynes, seconded by Counselor Felch. Is there any further discussion on that first motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hands. As 6 votes in the affirmative, the motion passes. Second motion is a move to schedule a public hearing on January 24th, 2022 during the regular city council meeting regarding anti-displacement and relocation assistance plan. So made by Counselor Haynes, seconded by Counselor Felch. Is there any further discussion? No discussion. Do you know what is it?
That's a plan that needs to be updated every couple of years. We'll have a copy of the updated plan for you in your next agenda packet.
Okay.
And basically, if there's any project that the city or any of the applicants coming through that the city sponsors a CDBG application for, if there's displacement for residences while they're rehabbing a building,
Gotcha.
we have to identify how it is we will relocate people and keep them housed until the renovations are complete.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion on the table, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Thank you very much. A lot of papers going on here tonight. Let's see. Item number 21B, which is request to appoint Elizabeth Cooper as Ward 2 Supervisor of the Checklist for a term expiring at the end of December 2023. Currently, that position is vacant. This report was submitted by Cheryl Hebert, our current city clerk. We have a motion to support what's been submitted, appointing Ms. Cooper, so made by
Nope.
Councilor Felch.
Okay, thank you.
Seconded by Councilor Hamel. Would you like to discuss this? Is this something that you thought would
It
go?
was his ward.
That's my
Oh,
word,
I-
but that's normal. I expected the interruption.
That
That's
is
all
my
right.
bad.
Not your bad. It's something I expected.
I was just looking left, that's all. Okay, so there's no discussion on this motion. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion
No
passes.
guns allowed. You understand?
I still have my permit.
Okay. Item number 21C, request to appoint a Ward 2 ward clerk. This is a request to appoint David Lavoy as the ward clerk for a term expiring at the end of December 2023. The current Ward 2 clerk did not refile for another term. Counselor Susie, would you like to move that?
Please.
Is there a
I have your
second?
okay?
Is there a second? There is
I'll
from
second it.
Counselor Felch. Is there any further discussion on Mr. Lavoy? Seeing none, all those in favor of this motion, please indicate. 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Okay. Under item 21D, request to appoint Brianna Neal as the Ward 5 moderator for a term expiring at the end of 2023. The current Ward 5 moderator did not refile for another term. Brianna Neal filed to become a selectman of Ward 5 and was voted in as such. She has submitted a letter turning down that position in order to be moderator. So looking for a motion right now to appoint Brianna Neal as the Ward 5 moderator. So made by Counselor Hamel, seconded by Counselor Susie. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Just very quickly, Bree has worked in Ward 4 as ballot clerk, and she also was a selectman. Her work is impeccable, and Ward 4's loss was Ward 5's gain. Thank you,
She
Mr.
comes highly recommended.
Yes.
All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Item number 21E, which is a request from Humble Grunt Work, Inc. to hold a Veterans Appreciation event in Levitt Park on Saturday, January 29th, 2022, and to waive city fees. Humble Grunt Work is a New Hampshire registered nonprofit, has received administrative approval from the Parks and Rec Department to hold this event on the 29th of January from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. There will be a luncheon, music, and horse-drawn carriage rides. This request is included on the Special Events Review Committee agenda for their January 5th meeting. The motion provided below is conditioned upon their approval. So I'll be looking for a motion right now to approve this request by Humble Grunt, Inc.
I
So
make that motion.
if you'd like to make the motion, terrific. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Hamel. Any further discussion on this motion?
I'd just like to quickly say that's an excellent organization that does a lot for veterans. And I
Really?
hope that the council will support this request.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate. 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Item number 21F, which is the first reading of resolution RES 2022-02 relative to authorizing the city manager to accept and expend a grant on behalf of the city in the amount of $30,085 for the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services Exotic Species Program Project, and request to schedule a public hearing on January 24th, 2022, during the regular city council meeting. It's a series of 3 motions. First one is a motion to move to waive the reading of the resolution in its entirety and read by title only. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Second motion to be looking for is a move to move a first reading of resolution 2022-02 relative to authorizing the city manager to accept and expend a grant on behalf of the city in the amount of $30,085 for the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services Exotic Species Program Project. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Hamel. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please indicate by, if you're in support, raise your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative. That passes. And finally, we're looking for a motion to move a scheduled public hearing on January 21st, 2022, during the regular city council meeting to gather public input prior to any action being taken. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Item number 21G, which is approval of an amendment to the 1988 agreement with Eversource for use of their land for the Opeechee Boat Ramp. Scott, would you just walk us through this from a 10,000-foot view?
I will, if I can, at 10,000 feet, Mr. Mayor. So the agreement for the boat launch on Opeechee on the Eversource property on Messer Street's been in place for a number of years. They're looking to amend this lease to do a couple of simple things that were requested by the Conservation Commission, relocating a portable toilet, putting a collector box there for non-filament and lead fishing gear, having the Concom be able to plant and maintain native vegetation along the shoreline, and to identify what improvements or maintenance we can do on the boat ramp that goes into the water. The elephant in the room is Eversource had indicated they were not willing to be responsible liability wise for any type of a petroleum, oil, gas spill there, and wanted that responsibility and burden, if you will, to fall on the city. We reached out to Primex, who is our liability carrier, and any type of environmental cleanup like that is a complete exclusion. Primex would not cover it. And I should say, I understand why Eversource would be asking for that. They have their infrastructure there, but they don't staff it on a regular basis, nor are they responsible for the boat launch. So we asked Primex to line us up with an outside vendor to see if it was possible to get this coverage as a standalone item through somebody else in the commercial world. We received 2 bids for this coverage on an annual basis. One was 8,000 to 9,000. The other one was around 13,000, I believe. Both policies came with a $50,000 per occurrence deductible. We've had one very minor issue there well before my time, but according to Eversource, in 30 years, it's not great sized boats going there. There's smaller boats that are using Opeechee. So our options are basically to pay the insurance premium and pick up a $50,000 deductible, which we're not recommending as staff. Other options to protect us, if you will, would be to allow only non-motorized boats to use that. So carry in, carry out kayaks and canoes, but no motor boats using that launch, or to pay to have a staff person there at normal busy times on it just to help monitor something that more than likely is never going to happen. So our recommendation is that we sign the amendment, understand that we've got a little bit of exposure here, but not purchasing the insurance because we think that premium with that level of deductible just doesn't make sense.
Thank you. Councilor Cheney.
I went by there recently and there were a number of Eversource trucks there working on the equipment. So I would also like to the agreement to say any spills caused by people using the ramp will be responsible for. We won't be responsible for any spills that Eversource may create.
Yeah, and this agreement is specific to the use of the boat ramp.
Okay.
Any other questions for the city manager on this? And this, my only question, this amendment, First Amendment, that's been reviewed by our legal department as well.
Yep, legal reviewed it all, and then again through Primex Legal, and that's where we went out to get quotes for alternate insurance as well.
Okay, terrific. Thanks. So right now I'd be looking for a motion to move to approve the First Amendment of the First Amendment to the 1988 agreement with Eversource on use of the land on Messer Street for the Lake Opeechee boat launch and authorize the city manager to sign the agreement. So made by Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Felch. Any further discussion on this motion? Counselor Hammond.
So Scott, basically, we're gonna vote on this through Eversource. And then we're gonna make the decision on what's gonna be allowed to go in there.
No, it would be business as usual, and we just are assuming responsibility of something that's happened
So
once.
what's
in 30 years.
self-insurance?
We would pick it up through our operational budget, should we have to do some kind of a cleanup there.
Okay, but you'll maintain, let it be the way it is now.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Counselor Felch.
I would hope that if we could prove who it was that caused the spill, that they would be responsible.
That certainly would be our first option, yes.
Camera.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, so motion's on the table. No further discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 5 votes in the affirmative.
Correct.
1 opposed. Motion passed. Under item number 21, I, which is the annual city manager evaluation. I would like to address that only to say that Scott and I have begun our discussions, and I've shared with each of you my discussion with Scott and, oops.
Each.
Oh, the cops grant, whatever it is. I was just reading that. Okay. 21H, authorize, and this is to authorize the acceptance of an office-oriented policing services or COPS grant. This to authorize the acceptance of the COPS grant in the amount of $200,000 and to fund de-escalation and implicit bias training. In July 2021, Laconia Police Department applied for a grant offer through the U.S. Department of Justice under its COPS de-escalation training solicitation program. Recently, the police department's been notified that the application has been approved and the grant has been awarded. Just for the record and for those viewing, certainly this project will enable the Laconia Police Department to prevent unnecessary violence in the city during police interactions by bolstering their mission of community-oriented policing through enhanced transparency, accountability, and community relations. This will be accomplished through the establishment of a robust cadre of annual trainings to include VJI, de-escalation, and Milo counter bias training simulation. Trainings for officers and dispatchers. These trainings will build officer knowledge about effective practices and outcomes in preventing crime and promoting safe communities through the proper use of de-escalation skills. Additionally, the Laconia Police Department will host 2 annual VJI de-escalation through intervention training open to law enforcement agencies in Belknap County. There's the entire cost. There's no fiscal impact to the city. The entire cost of the program is covered by the COPS grant. There's no match required. This report was submitted by Captain Al Grattan of Laconia Police Department. So right now I'll be looking for a motion to move to accept and expend the Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services grant in the amount of $200,000 to fund de-escalation and implicit bias training. So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Susie. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. It's 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. My bad. Thank you for picking up on that. Councilor Hamel. Now on to item number 21I. As I've indicated to all of you, city manager and I met last week to have, I guess what I would characterize as an initial discussion for his annual evaluation. Obviously, there are some unique circumstances this year in light of the fact that he intends to leave service the city of Laconia in September. We haven't scheduled it yet, but I'd probably schedule a follow-up with the city manager later on this week. I think I've mentioned this to all of you, and certainly you've offered me some feedback over the past couple of days as well. So I think this is something that we can probably conclude at the next meeting, the January 24th meeting.
Yep.
Any further questions or concerns that you'd like to share with me so I can share with the city manager, please let me know. And I'll be happy to do that. But, you know, I will say, without getting into it too much, I mean, we're very fortunate in the city with the people that we have, that the public employees that we have. And, you know, it starts with Scott and, you know, include Cheryl, the chief and Wes are here as well. So we're very fortunate. But anyway, if you can wait 2 weeks, Scott, we can probably conclude this and get it off the agenda.
Okay.
Item number 21J, which is a request to establish rental fees for Boardwalk and Weirs Boulevard vending spaces for Laconia Motorcycle Week. Scott, can you just give us a quick overview on that while I grab a drink?
Yes, and just reviewing annual expenses and revenue for the past years. I think those of you who follow the Motorcycle Week know that our charges, and especially this past year in the area of some of the porta potties, have gone up significantly. So this would be an increase from $1,500 per space on the boardwalk up to $1,750. The last increase took effect on boardwalk rentals in 2016. So this will make it 6 years since we've had an increase. We have 16 spaces down there that we do charge for. So the net impact to the city with it. If all the spaces are rented, would be an additional $4,000 coming in. This one was important to try to address tonight because Nancy in my office starts to work to line up the rentals now. At the next meeting, we're also going to be bringing, because we've been reviewing all vendor fees for private property as well, separate from the rentals that we do. We believe the last time that our vendor our vendor license fee, I should say, of $450 was increased was in the 1990s. So we will be bringing a recommendation again, separate from this, but to raise that $100. That would be at $550 for a vendor license for the 10-day event. That still puts us less than what is currently charged in Sturgis or in Daytona. And again, it's been 15 years plus since we've had any increase in that fee. But tonight it's just on the boardwalk spaces. Also, the spaces are available on Weirs Boulevard in the area where the Chamber of Commerce used to have their little kiosk of brochures and stuff in that area. To my knowledge, I don't know the last time that area has been rented. It has not been rented in my 10 years with the city, but it is available there if someone's looking to rent that as well.
Thank you very much, Scott. So right now, I'll be looking for a motion to approve rental fees for Laconia Motorcycle Week 2022. Vending spaces located on the boardwalk in Weirs Boulevard as presented. So made by Councilor Felch, seconded by Councilor Cheney. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Moving on to item number 22, which is under unfinished business, which is item number 22A. Second reading of the resolution 2022-01 relative to the acceptance of the New Hampshire State Library Services American Rescue Plan Act sub-grant.
We have a 21K.
JK? No, I don't have a K. Do I have a K?
Yes,
I didn't have it on mine either, but
I have it on
Cheryl
mine.
does.
We had sent out, we amended the agenda, sent you an amended agenda, and also gave you
I
a
did.
standalone item.
I was just trying to figure that out. It was
Right here.
in there, but I didn't see it.
No, you should have it. Anyone who got a paper copy, so you can use that one if you want.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh,
Sorry for the confusion. We missed this in putting the agenda together, but it did get out a little bit later or the next day. I think the agenda just went out Wednesday and we got it to you Thursday.
good thing we have a follow-up on the evaluation.
Mhm.
Okay. 21K. Proposal amended to wage and compensation plan. Scott, would you walk us through this and your reasoning behind it? That would be helpful. Thank you.
Sure. So this is a proposed amendment to the wage and compensation plan or the compensation and classification plan to create a new position, which is not currently in the plan. And this would combine the jobs and the duties of the city clerk and the city tax collector into one position. As you know, the workspace that they share down on the first floor as you come into the building is open and collaborative. There's already been a lot of cross training of employees between tax and clerk side as well, with an opportunity with Cheryl leaving to go on to new excitement. We also have Lindsay Allen, who has been with us and been a great tax collector for years. And she has interviewed and accepted another position within the city, and we're moving into the human resources area, the personnel specialist area upon longtime personnel specialist Paula Baumel's retirement at the end of March. So it's great that Lindsay's staying with us in a new capacity, and she's got several months to transition with Paula before Paula retires. And with Cheryl's leaving, this gave an opportunity to discuss combining the position. This is done in a number of communities. Other cities are doing this as well as some towns, and seems to be an opportunity to combine the positions, to have one dedicated leader within the workspace. We'll work to fill out where we need to support, because obviously the intent is not to take two positions and only end up with one physical person in the space. So we'll figure out where the support needs to come, whether it's in minute takings of the meetings, whether it's in another, clerk at the window, a combination thereof. We have seen a lot of business in the clerk tax area go to online or drop off or mail in type of thing since COVID hit. It doesn't mean there's less work for them, but it does sometimes mean there are fewer people queuing up in the building, especially at the end of the month or the first of the month when someone's on a deadline to register a vehicle or something. So this is for your consideration of allowing us to advertise and hire for this position if the right candidate comes along. It is a challenging labor market out there right now. So our hope is that maybe one combined position for someone who's got the experience and the ability that's a little bit higher compensated might yield better results than two key positions having to fill at the same time. So that would be the approach, and looking for your support on adding this job.
Thank you, Scott. So let's perhaps move this, and if you have questions, we can do it then, but I'm looking for a motion to move to approve the proposed amendment to the wage and compensation plan as presented. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Hamel. Any further questions or discussion on what's been proposed with the motion on the table?
So the decision to give Cheryl 120,000 now that she's leaving, we don't have to spend that money?
Fortunately or unfortunately, yeah.
Okay.
It'll stay in the account. All right.
Save us a lot of money.
If there's no further discussion on this, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
You should be able to find somebody pretty good. I don't.
Okay, so now we're on to 21A. Right?
22A.
22A, excuse me. 22A, thank you. Was the second reading of 2022-01 relative to the acceptance of the ARPA funds for New Hampshire State Library Services subgrant. Laconia Public Library has awarded a grant in the amount of $12,103 from the American Rescue Plan. This grant will help with remodeling the children's section of the library. So this is a series of 3 motions. The first one is to waive the reading of Resolution 2022-01 in its entirety and to read by title only. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. It's 6 votes in the affirmative. The motion passes. Secondly, we're looking for a motion to move a second reading of Resolution 2022-01 relative to the acceptance of the American Rescue Plan Act subgrant in the amount of $12,103 for the Laconia Public Library. So made by Counselor Haynes, seconded by Counselor Hamel. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hands. It's 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. And finally, on this matter, looking for a motion to approve the resolution 2022-01 relative to the acceptance of the American Rescue Plan Act subgrant in the amount of $12,103 for the Laconia Public Library. So made by Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Littman. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes as well. 22B has already been addressed earlier. Move on to item number 22C. I'm hoping, I guess my question before we dive into this, is there an opportunity here to have further discussions that might be productive before we
Well, I think we can.
pull this off the table?
We can remove it from the table and retable it if we have to.
Or could you just leave it on the table? We just leave it on the table and then we can see what the next 2 weeks holds.
right.
And that's okay. I think based on the comments tonight, I'm not sure. You mean, you're closer to it than I am in this as far as discussions and what's going on, but well, maybe we give it one more shot. Sure. Item will stay on the table. That concludes our formal agenda. We will be adjourning and going into non-meeting. At the end, as soon as I adjourn, under RSA 91-A:2, small a in the parentheses. Strategy or negotiations with respect to collective bargaining. So I'd like to declare this meeting, adjourn this meeting at 9:07 PM, and we'll move to a non-meeting once the chamber is cleared.